Good afternoon to you. 3:06 now, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. Coming up this hour, Jimmy Failla joins us. We'll talk about that big segregated rally the left held last night. White men for Kamala. Jimmy will weigh in on that, and we'll find out if his invitation got lost in the mail. Thomas Catanacci is here. Tomcat at 4:30 from the Washington Free Beacon. We talked to him about yet another boondoggle that the feds have wasted money on Kamala Harris and all of those electric buses she promised. And then Ron Johnson, the United States Senator, joins us today at 5:30, a part of a big hearing today looking for answers in the assassination attempt on President Donald Trump. You can join us. 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL.
Senator, there is absolutely no doubt in the FBI's mind whether former President Trump was hit with a bullet and wounded in the ear. No doubt, there never has been.
Okay.
I've been part of this investigation since the very beginning, and that has never been raised.
Take that, Blue Anon. That's FBI Deputy Director Paul Abbate today, putting to rest yet again the conspiracy theory that somehow President Trump was not hit by a bullet when a man came within a fraction of an inch of killing him on that stage in Butler, Pennsylvania, now a couple of weekends ago. That's the FBI Deputy Director Paul Abbate saying that. He did say, you heard him say there, that it's always been the FBI's position that President Trump got hit by a bullet. Not quite. Christopher Wray, in his testimony last week, told the Congress that there was some question whether or not it was a bullet or it was shrapnel. They're still trying to get to the bottom of that. The FBI Deputy Director coming out today going, no, my boss is wrong. We've always been consistent. It was a bullet. Or to the extent that the FBI is going to try and summon some sort of way that you can square both of those statements. They released a statement this past week. They weren't sure if it was a bullet or a, quote, fragment of a bullet, which doesn't make any sense either. There was no obstruction on the en route from that gun to that ear. It was a bullet that hit President Trump. And, of course, it's the most delusional left-wing conspiracy theorists in the country who've been buying into the line that this was somehow faked and not real. So there's the FBI Deputy Director today. He was testifying alongside the new acting director of the Secret Service, a guy called Ronald Rowe, who up until recently was the second in command at the Secret Service, working under the disgraced Kim Cheadle, who just resigned this past week after one of their protectees was shot in the head. Which, you know, that's, if you're going to look for a reason to go, that's one. If you have a no-fail mission to protect these guys and one of them gets shot in the head, it's time for you to go. You are out. A lot of the questions I have had, and perpetually through all of this, is what happened when those local cops picked up the radio? When they climbed to the roof and they saw this guy Crooks on the roof with a gun, and then they fall down because the Crooks points the weapon at them. That's the story we've been told. They make a radio call at that point that this guy's on the roof and he's got a gun. What happens at that moment? How much time elapses between that radio call and President Trump being shot in the head? Because remember, how quickly did the Secret Service agents get to Trump, the ones who were standing right next to the stage, his personal protective detail? The answer to that, 2 seconds. 2 seconds is the fastest that any agent ran from the sound of those shots to President Trump. That's 2 seconds. Here's FBI Deputy Director Paul Abbate today talking about some of the timeline, officers losing sight of the suspect and when he popped up again.
25 minutes prior to the shooting, the U.S. Secret Service command post was notified of a suspicious person. Officers lost sight of the subject from approximately 6:02 p.m. to 6:08 p.m., but continued to communicate with each other in an attempt to locate him. Recently discovered video from a local business shows the shooter pulling himself up onto the AGR building rooftop at approximately 6:06 p.m. And at approximately 6:08 p.m., the subject was observed on the roof by local law enforcement.
6:08. Let me just pause there for a moment. 6:08, just to set your frame of reference. By late 6:11 or around 6:12 on the dot is when the shooting begins. It's around that time frame. So 6:08 puts us approximately 4 minutes before the shooting. That's from 6:08 to 6:12. And if we're tightening up the timeline, at the very least 3 minutes.
Approximately 6:11 p.m., a local police officer was lifted to the roof by another officer saw the shooter and radioed that he was armed with, quote, a long gun. Within approximately the next 30 seconds, the shots were fired.
Okay. Well, that's a lot of time. A lot of 30 seconds? 30 seconds? We do radio ads here that last for 30 seconds. 30 seconds is a meaningful amount of time to be able to convey a message. Again, this is what we do in radio. So if you're a Secret Service agent or if you're a law enforcement guy, if you make a radio call that there's a man with a gun on the roof and there's one overarching mission, which is to protect the guy that's on that stage, how come that message doesn't get communicated to him today? Unfortunately, over the course of this hearing in front of the United States Senate, we really didn't get clear answers on that today. Yes, we know that these guys were on separate radio channels, but you would think, anybody would think, that if you're going to protect Donald Trump or any of these Secret Service protectees, if a local law enforcement guy gets on the radio and the word gun comes across the radio, that whoever is responsible for deconflicting all of these messages across all of these various radio channels in order to make these law enforcement agencies interoperable, that would somehow rise to the level of an immediate priority. Even if it takes a moment for you to process the word you just heard. Oh, what was that? He said gun? 30 entire seconds of nothing? The first indication that any of those agents on the ground had that there was a threat was when Trump was shot. And that's when they sprinted on stage. 2 seconds to do that. So here you have Paul Abbate today saying, yeah, cop makes the radio call, and within the next 30 seconds, he said within approximately 30 seconds, the shots were fired. Some more here. There is, I'm going to scroll down to this particular topic because I've got some audio specifically about this timing, and I think this is one of the most important elements here. Senator James Lankford wanted more detail on this, and here's what he discovered.
We've got one officer being boosted up by another officer to look up on the roof because people on the ground had said there's someone up there and they have a gun that's crawling on that roof. And so they climbed up to be able to see it. He turned around with a rifle. He came down. And then at that point, he gets on the local radio that he has and says there's someone on the roof with a gun. Is that correct?
Yes, Senator, I believe that that's accurate.
So what's the rest of the radio communication? We've heard that first call in. We know it's about 30 seconds from the time he called in till the actual first shot rang out. What else was discussed on the radio during that 30-second time period?
Senator, we have the radio communications. The local radio communications were recorded and captured, and we do have that as part of the investigation. The key points to me, that local officer communicating that he sees the individuals, he's armed, that's at about 6:11 in some seconds, I think it's 3 seconds, and then he identifies it as a long gun at about 6:11 and 11 seconds, and the shot.
6:11 and 3 seconds is when he makes the radio call. 6:11 and, did he say 11 seconds, is when he says that he's got a long gun.
Shots, which all happen quickly together, I believe happened within probably 30 seconds.
So we're talking about over the radio because there's a command center there.
Yes.
Where all radios, including the local, as they're all being listened to try to be able to review. There's a statement that has the word gun in it that's coming out across the radio. We only know that first communication. We don't know what came back and forth on that. We'd like to get transcripts of that conversation that was done in local law enforcement. But coming into that command center, there's also the word gun coming through one of the radio frequencies. Exactly. I would think that would be communicated pretty quickly to everybody across the spectrum. 30 seconds is not long, but that's an NFL play plus a huddle plus the next play. I mean, that's quite a bit of time still to be able to respond. When Secret Service moved to be able to protect the president once the first shots were fired, within 2 seconds, they're gathered around him.
Okay. Frustrating element there. James Lankford, who was asking a good line of questioning, he noticed that his clock was running out. He moved to another question. I'm sorry that he did. I wish he had stayed on that, because that piece is the essential element. It's one of many, but that is an essential element of how all of this went down. When that panicked radio communication comes in from that police officer, what happens? What did they hear? Whose job was it to listen to that communication and to instantly tell the Secret Service? So long as you're going to have friction in this communication, whose job is it to make things run more smoothly? Not a lot of answers today on names. Whose responsibility was it? Who signed off on the security plan? A lot of blowing past giving any clear answer on that. Got to be loyal to these guys. You know, what's crazy is that they haven't placed anybody, as far as we know, they haven't told us anyway, they haven't placed anybody on administrative leave. forget punished. How about just on leave pending the results of an investigation so we can establish whether or not you created the security problems? Nothing to that effect. And by the way, one would assume that if they were doing that, they would be up front and center about that. They'd tell us right away, oh, yeah, these guys are all on administrative leave pending the results of the investigation. They didn't say that. Thus, I think we can safely conclude that nobody has been put on ice for now. Nobody. Which, of course, needs to happen. Let's get to some Ronald Rowe. This is the current acting director of the Secret Service.
These were discussions that were had between the Pittsburgh field office, the local counterparts, and everyone supporting that visit that day. And that's why when I laid in that position, I could not, and I will not, and I cannot understand why there was not better coverage, or at least somebody looking at that roof line when that's where they were posted.
Yeah, so Ronald Rowe is explaining that right after he was named acting director, I guess, he went and visited this site of Butler, Pennsylvania, and he went to see it for himself. Something that, by the way, his predecessor did not do. The director of the Secret Service, she didn't go check out the scene. But Ronald Rowe says he did, and he went up on that roof and he laid down in the position that the assassin was in. He wanted to see what the view was, and he was saying in, I guess, as emotionally as he was today at all, that he was so shocked. He was so unbelievably shocked that this position was left open. And in fact said that he said, well, the Secret Service is ultimately responsible, but they believe that the local cops were going to be in a window that actually was looking right over the roof. That if they had just stuck their heads right outside the window and taken a look to the left, they would have seen this guy laying there. But nobody was in that room? Nobody? I mean, the answer to that question, that's not explained by the hot sun. Remember, we were told they weren't on the roof because it was very hot. What about being inside of a building, looking out of a window? Nothing to do with the heat. What is going on here? Other than just an abysmal failure to protect Donald Trump and his life and the lives of the people who were at that rally. Senator Ron Johnson wanted to know about what kind of interviews the FBI is conducting with Secret Service agents.
Acting Director Rowe, did you receive our letter from July 25th requesting interviews with 13 individuals of the Secret Service?
We are in receipt of that letter, Senator.
And I don't, Deputy Director Abbate, have you seen that letter as well? Do you know who we're requesting interviews with?
Senator, I have not seen the letter.
Do you know whether those individuals submitted to interviews with the FBI, Acting Director Rowe?
We're in the process. Those employees are being interviewed if they have not already been interviewed, sir.
Are those interviews being transcribed?
The FBI interviews, sir?
Yes. Well, we have 302s on those.
Yes, Senator, we will.
Okay, when will Congress get those 302s? When will we get those transcriptions of those interviews?
Senator, I'll take that back and we'll get those to you as soon as possible.
So, Acting Director Rowe, when will those individuals be made available for Congress, for this committee to interview them?
Senator, we'll make them available.
How soon? Because memories are short. They can be influenced by events. We need these transcribed interviews as soon as possible.
We will get that done, sir.
All right, so Senator Ron Johnson, he wants to talk to everybody on the ground. He wants to talk to all these Secret Service people. He wants to get some answers. If you were listening to Dan Bongino's program, he was talking about in some detail what these guys might know, including the fact that the Trump team has routinely asked for enhancements to their security that have been denied over and over and over by the Biden administration. Despite the denials, the early lies by the Secret Service spokesman. No, there were no security enhancements turned down. That was a flat denial that was made, and it was a flat lie by the Secret Service spokesman who continues to be in that role as of this very day. All right, let's go to the phones. Kelly, North Dakota, line 2. Kelly, good afternoon. You're on the Vince Colonnese Show.
Hey, Vince.
Hey there.
Oh, love your show.
Thank you.
I was just kind of throwing an idea out there. You know, why don't we have normal people on these hearings? You know, voters. You know, maybe do like whatever you call it, like a
proxy questioner, have somebody come in and ask questions on behalf of the senators?
Correct. Yes, absolutely.
You know, remember when
Yeah,
Brett
I'm
Kavanaugh
sick-
was
I'm
in
sick
for
of
his
being
confirmation
Senate-
hearing, and the Republicans were too scared to question Christine Blasey Ford? There were too many men. So they brought in a ringer. They brought a woman in, I think she was a lawyer, and had her do the questioning of Christine Blasey Ford for, for identity politics reasons. In other words, it is possible. You could bring in a ringer, have somebody do the questioning, Kelly.
Yeah, well, I mean, just normal, everyday voters, everyday Americans.
Yeah.
I'm kind of sick of this no-do-nothing senators and all that crap.
Yeah, but we've got to make sure the people we bring in know what the hell they're talking about, because even senators are voters, and so, some of those, Bongino, obviously, So bring in Dan. Have Dan do the questioning. Dan's a Secret Service guy. He knows the inner workings. He can kind of smell the BS. Have him do the questions. I think that'd be a perfectly reasonable thing. Have Susan Crabtree come and do it. Susan Crabtree, who knows so much about this, she's been reporting on it extensively. She has encyclopedic knowledge. She knows how to drill down. She can smell where the garbage is. She can hone in on it. Do that. These senators should definitely, if they have any humility whatsoever and they really want to get to the bottom of this, bring in excellent ringers, to Kelly's point, and have them fire off these questions. I think that'd be great, Kelly.
All right. Thank you, Vince.
Yeah. Thanks for the idea. It's a good one. Rick is in Ohio on line 1. Rick, good afternoon, sir. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Hey, Vince. Thanks for taking my call.
My pleasure.
The fact that your opening segment elevates my blood pressure is a credit to how well you put it together. How cogent it
My
is.
apologies for that result. Thank you, though.
Yeah, no, we appreciate that, though. Hey, so you got a really smart audience, but I just want to remind everybody that the federal government executive branch information is presumptively the property of the American people. That's why we have the Freedom of Information Act, FOIA, things like that the executive branch is always trying to get around. When you're a Fed bureaucrat like I am, they teach you in the courses every year, you can't classify something, you can't defeat FOIA just because it saves somebody from embarrassment.
Right.
And even if the executive can put forward a colorable reason why the information shouldn't be released, the inquiry's not over yet. It's got to be weighed against the public's interest to know something.
Yes.
And I frankly cannot think of an event in my pretty lengthy life at this point that the public has a greater interest in the fullest possible transparency. And I'll shut up and let you take it.
No, it's exactly right. There's no excuse right now as to why you and I haven't been able to listen to the police radio chatter. The local cop makes the call. There's a gunman on the roof. I can hear that anywhere in America. I can listen to police scanner audio, find out, what's going on in Washington, D.C., Philadelphia. I can't get that radio call. I can't play that audio for you right now. What is that about? Why is the bias towards secrecy from us? I'm with you 100%, Rick. It's a disaster, and we need to readjust everybody's understanding of their relationship to the people. Everybody in the government, that is. Coming up, Jimmy Failla will talk to us as the Democrats get back to their roots with their segregated rallies. Good afternoon. 3:36 now. News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. Coming up on the program, Thomas Catanacci will join us from the Washington Free Beacon. We'll talk about how Kamala Harris has wasted so much of your money on boondoggle green bus programs. And then Ron Johnson is here. Senator Ron Johnson at 5:30. We'll talk to him about that big hearing on Capitol Hill today, what he has learned and what questions he still has about the assassination attempt on President Trump. You can join us at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. Last night, another one of Kamala's Klan rallies, they had a big segregated event. White dudes for Kamala assembled. Not in person, that takes too much work. So they did it over a Chinese-run app called Zoom from all across the country. Let's take a listen to some of the audio here from White Dudes for Harris.
I'm white, I'm a dude, and I'm for Harris.
Over the last few years, I've been thinking a lot about men.
I'm not sure if you guys can recall that feeling you had on the night of Tuesday, November 8th, 2016. I stood over my kid's bed and I wept.
White nationalists in MAGA, they want to speak for you specifically as white men.
In the marginalized communities that educate me every single day, that this is a constant education for all of us.
Kamala is carrying on her shoulders 248 years of pain, of agony, of hope, of frustration. And no matter how high she jumps, no matter how many degrees she has, no matter how good her grades are, she's never good enough because they're always moving the line.
What a variety of whiteness we have here. It's like a rainbow of beige.
Wow. Yeah. We should put a word in with the Guinness Book of World Records, see if they can score that event. Was it the single lowest testosterone event to ever be assembled anywhere? It's possible. Joining us now, Jimmy Failla is on the phone, the host of Fox Across America. Sir, it's good to have you with us. Did you happen to make it to White Dudes for Harris last night, or did your invitation get lost?
No, I want to defend them on one point, okay? They only called it White Dudes for Harris because it had a nicer ring than Losers, you know? And you got to be mindful of the branding, and people are less likely to vibe in if it's called Losers. But calling it White Dudes, they sounded like they had a point. What is so funny about this, okay, is there's two angles that I can't get away from. One is, okay, we're mocking them because they've spent 4 years calling us racist, and now they're having segregated Zoom rallies, as you mentioned, which is hilarious. But it really is segregation in the sense that the implication is, hey, we're white dudes, and we need to, you know, tell our other white friends this is how we can help out the minority community. With the implication being everybody here only has white friends. So it's bigger than a Zoom meeting. And there's that. And then there's just the other notion that some of the big celebrities on the White Dudes for Harris call were telling us 3 weeks ago that Joe Biden had maybe 2 more terms in him.
Right.
So how do you take a guy like Mark Hamill at face value or Jeff Bridges? It's absurd.
Yeah, no, it's totally absurd. And it's pathetic is what it is. Look, I don't go out of my way to get together for like a huge meeting with men about being men. Let's do a conversation about being men. It's so weird. It's like I instantly recoil, and even when it has nothing to do with Kamala Harris, and this one did.
I know, but that's the other part that speaks to just how far out of touch they are with the world we're living in. Like, you know this, I know this. We all have the same needs. There's not a race or a gender that doesn't have the exact same needs. You want to make money, you want to feed your family, you want to feel safe, get a little something, whatever it is you're into. But the point is, it's not unique to any one race. So when they gather under these auspices, it really is just performative stupidity. There's no other way to say it, man. Yeah. But it becomes a branding exercise for them. Like, do you remember in the summer of 2020, we were covering these stories, how they were like white cul-de-sac ladies that would bring black women to dinner parties to explain how they were racist?
Yes.
It was like the most bizarre thing. We're like sitting around the table like, do me.
Yeah, it's like some sort of like bizarre fetish. It's like a left-wing ideological BDSM dinner. It's like, come over to my house and beat me to death for my whiteness.
It's so weird. Like, pass the gravy. Why's it got to be white gravy? You're like, oh, damn, you're right. You got me. I'm the worst.
It's bizarre. It's totally crazy. All right, so I read the New York Times coverage of the White Dudes rally because I wanted to know, what are they saying on the left about this? And you may not be surprised to know that they actually made excuses for the segregated rally. They claimed that it was poking gentle fun at their whiteness. And they also went out of their way to distance the Harris campaign from the event. They said that the Harris campaign was not involved in planning this event, just so everybody knows. Why would they need to distance Kamala Harris from this event? I thought it was wonderful.
This is my favorite thing about it. Is like they're trying to sell us on the notion that this is all organic. That like 3 months ago we were all covering, are they going to take Kamala off the ticket? And we all said no because of identity politics. But the idea that they were openly speculating as to whether she should even remain on the ticket, and now they want us to believe that in the last week this folk hero has emerged who's just resonating far and wide across the country. It's so absurd. But as you know, they don't manufacture momentum for a good candidate, okay? They're doing it for her because they have to distance her from everything she's done in government. I mean, I know you covered this last week with the border czar fiasco, and they're pretending she wasn't the border czar. Like, I tweeted this. We're a week away from the media claiming she wasn't VP. They're like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. And that's the moment we're living in. It's all fake. and it's being led by actors who get paid to fake things. That's what we're watching.
I know. It's so pitch perfect. You're exactly right about that. Among the people on the call was Mayor Pete Buttigieg, known affectionately by the left back in the old primary as Mayo Pete. He is now a part of the White Dudes for Kamala coalition. And here he is talking about the issue of abortion. And he says, abortion's pretty great for men because it gives them all sorts of liberty if they whack their own children. Take a listen.
I'm so glad she has made freedom the theme of her campaign, because I think in so many ways that's what's at stake. And yes, women's freedom is Exhibit A after Donald Trump demolished the right to choose. But of course, men are also more free in a country where we have a president who stands up for things like access to abortion care. Men are more free.
I don't know if it could be more perfect than this. So at a segregated rally, Pete Buttigieg declares that men actually have more freedom when their kids get whacked. Does that add up for you?
Oh, my gosh. And it's like you really think about how the Democrats used to position themselves on abortion. I believe the messaging was safe, legal, and rare.
Yeah.
Okay. Now they're actually wearing it like it's a patch they bought at Hot Topic. It's like having a Ramones denim jacket or something. And they don't realize, again, to just regular people, okay, they look so morally bankrupt to make this a centerpiece issue. Like, no, we're going to win because Kamala's on the ticket, and we're just going to have, drive-through abortion or whatever the heck they're going to do to tell you this is more convenient than it would be under the other guy. And I find the whole thing so gross. And, as a comedian, like, I'm on Fox, and I'm basically there because I talk like I get paid in Tide Pods and tequila. Mm-hmm. And I might because I need a better agent. But it's like, it's so funny to watch unintentional hilarity, because that's what this is. It's unintentional hilarity.
Yes.
Even though there was a white women for Kamala thing yesterday that was hosted by a man in a dress. It's like, that's funny, whether they think it is or not. I promise it's funny.
I know. There's a lot of material. There's no question about that. It's stupendous. This idea that they can completely erase Kamala's past and then sell us on this artifice and be like, actually, she's wonderful. She's always been great. She's been wildly successful. She can speak in complete English sentences. Do you think it's sustainable?
No, I think what will ultimately happen is at some point they are going to debate and we are going to get exposed to her. And I think there's going to be a little more accountability from a policy standpoint. But I think their goal is to control the message as much as humanly possible. We only got 98 days to go. And I think they hope it's sustainable. But I think the reality is it's like the Biden thing. At some point it has to go public. And, just like it did with the debate, she's not going to come off as a likable, warm, good person. Again, this is contrived and manufactured. And the people who taught us it wasn't sustainable are the people shilling for us. I mean, shilling for her. Don't forget, when she was running as a Democrat, at the time she dropped out of the race, she was polling behind ISIS. There's not a world where there's this new Kamala now, and that's the point.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for the debates.
Me too.
Whenever the heck they come.
Yeah. And they need to, the Trump campaign, they clearly, to the extent that they can, they need to get her off script. The other thing I've been saying is why wouldn't they just let Kamala be Kamala, Jimmy Failla? Why are they controlling her so much? Why do they keep her so hemmed in? They should just let her be free. Like, she's so capable, as you know, of course. Kamala Harris is a unique political talent. Stop trying to control her. Let her get out there, talk to the people, do the interviews, and be her true self.
Thank you. I mean, I'm ready to donate to her campaign under those auspices and those alone.
I think it'd be great. I was thinking about, that this is not the first time they've attempted this with Kamala Harris. Back when she announced her presidential campaign in 2019, she gave a huge speech in Oakland, and all these people showed up, and there was a big crowd, and the media went gaga for her. They spent weeks talking about how Kamala Harris is the one to beat. She is so marvelous. And what happened to that campaign?
Well, Tulsi Gabbard happened to that campaign. If you force her into a substantive debate, she's got really big problems. And that's the biggest joke of the whole thing, is it's like the people on those white dude Zooms are supposed to be demonstrating that they're an ally to the minority community. But if you're an ally to the minority community, you don't support the candidate who opened the borders and crushed the minority community, whether we're talking about inflation or anything else this administration has been party to. Like, there has never been a more destructive 4 years in our lifetime for the minority community than the last 4 years.
Yes.
And that's the reality of her policies. And it's not like they're out there promising to change them. They're just running on like, fake deliverables. Like they're calling Republicans weird. That's what we're dealing with now.
Yeah.
But if you can't pay your bills, telling the electric company Republicans are weird isn't going to get you a discount. Never mind that, you're saying this on behalf of a party who told me men were having babies for 4 years.
Yeah, and
which is weird.
And that's the sign. If you're using just weirdness as the way you're going to try and defeat your political opponent, what that means is that you've decided to suspend using any sort of logic to defeat them, and instead defaulted to the strategy of a 13-year-old girl trying to navigate oncomers. You're so weird.
You're so weird. They're so random. You know what I mean, you guys? And that's what they're doing. And anybody listening to us and wondering why they're doing this needs to watch more Kamala clips, and they'll get it.
Yeah.
Okay. No. It's easier to sell weird than it is to sell her, who is, to be honest with you, anyone who laughs in the middle of a sentence for no reason is kind of weird. If we were going to get technical.
No, it's very true. Very, very true. As always, Jimmy Failla, thank you. They should pay you so much better. Really appreciate your time today.
Oh, you're the best, Vince. Thanks, Vince.
Good to talk to you. It's 3:49 now. All right, let's go to the phones. I've got Mark, Virginia Beach, line 2. Mark, good afternoon, sir. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Hey, Vince. I'm in the gym, so let me step outside right back.
Mark's in the gym.
Listen.
He's getting his pump on.
Yep, I'm outside now.
All right.
I'm so conflicted, Vince. I'm half white, half Mexican, and the white side of me wants to be white privilege shamed.
Uh-huh.
But the Mexican side of me says, hell no, you ain't white, you're Mexican.
Uh-huh.
So what do I do?
I don't know. What did Obama do when he ran into that problem?
No.
What did Obama do when he ran into that problem? How did he navigate it?
Oh, he looks black, so he just went with the black side.
Oh, he just picked one and he just ran with it. Yeah, it's Mark. That's a struggle I can't help you with. But the reason you've arrived at that is the left has convinced you that this is the most important thing about you, which of course I know you don't care about. But that's funny. Isn't it amazing? So if they I haven't seen. Did they have a Mexicans for a Kamala call? I don't think they have.
Hell no, they don't. No, we don't support that foolishness. No.
That's right. All right, Mark. Well, good luck with your internal monologue and your debate. Thank you very much.
Struggle.
Yeah, your struggle. Get back into the gym. Work it out there. So Mark's right. It's ridiculous. It's just totally ridiculous. And also, the best part is they think that what they're doing is somehow decent. They're like, we're the good people. Guys, you're organizing segregated rallies now. Do you even hear yourselves? Do you hear yourselves? There was a lot more audio from this. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, who is a ridiculous human being. Here he is making excuses for socialism.
But we can get out there, reach out, make the case. And for one thing, don't ever shy away from our progressive values. One person's socialism is another person's neighborliness.
They're so brazen. He's at the point he's like, hey, whatever. Okay, so we're socialists. It's neighborly to be a socialist. Really? So you take your neighbor's stuff and give it to a different neighbor? That's neighborly? I don't think so. That's not very neighborly to me. But anyway, there's Governor Tim Walz insisting that that's the right thing to do. Hey, coming up here in the next hour, we're going to chat with Thomas Catenacci. He's a reporter for the Washington Free Beacon. Tomcat. We're going to talk to him about Kamala Harris and, that big $5 billion electric school bus program? The wheels on the bus go round and round, all the stuff that Kamala Harris likes talking about. Do you know how many buses they've actually produced for $5 billion? It's a typical government waste story as Kamala Harris attempts to run away from her record. And speaking of that record, the New York Times today is a little nervous that people may remember that she has an awful record behind her. And so the race is on to erase all of it. Kamala 2024, they're trying to erase Kamala 2020. They don't want you to know about it anymore. We'll get into the details there. And why Politico says that Kamala needs to stay away from microphones. It's all ahead on the Vince Coglianese Show.